Returning to Sam Raimi's original Spider-Man is, at this point, a lesson in nostalgia. Now over 2 decades old, Spider-Man is officially a film out of its prime, a relic belonging to cinema history, and it certainly deserves its spot amongst the greats. Heralding the next generation of blockbuster filmmaking, Spider-Man popularized the very idea of an actually cohesive superhero film. Better yet, a superhero film that felt like an art house character study, but earned like a summer blockbuster. No one could get enough of the wall crawler, consumer and commercial entities alike. Once again, it may just be the nostalgia talking, but returning to the film invokes inevitable smirks at the wholesome cheesiness, goosebumps from its grandiosity, and tears from its heart. Because, more than anything, Spider-Man is about its story and the characters that populate it. Peter and Norman's climactic battle may have been thrilling for the devastating punches, but it was made impactful by the erasure of his score, replaced instead by the pained breaths of academic inspirations turned superpowered rivals. Notice also how my first inclination was to say Peter and Norman rather than Spider-Man and Green Goblin. Nowadays, do I speak of superheroes with the same reverence and familiarity? The same comfort? Iron Man isn't Tony Stark, and Captain America hasn't been Steve Rogers to me since 2013. While the MCU deserves its credit for successfully adapting strong characters from script to screen, at least in the beginning of its tenure, it is impossible to argue that the modern superhero film has more heart, personality, or character than the Raimi trilogy. I don't mean to beat a dead horse. Anyone with a vague interest in pop culture and a literate brain has been subjected to infinite complaints about the integrity of fictional characters in tights, played by this guy who looks like my uncle. But when comparing the heart and hokiness of Raimi's trilogy with the self-seriousness of the DCEU and the comedy of the modern MCU, it's impossible to ignore such a blatant shift in superhero films. Rather than intimately focusing on the person behind the mask, now these franchise pieces work on amplifying the already popular, promising the fans money-making imagery instead of a heartfelt story. This change is partially due to the mainstreamification of superheroes and geek culture, and I find this massive change can be demonstrated in the treatment of character suits over time. While Peter was scribbling away designs for his original costume before hand sewing it, Iron Man discovered how to magically bond metal to skin to brain between movies. There's a clear shift in how suits were treated both within and outside of the film's diegetic boundaries, from Raimi's heart to Thor's whatever godforsaken armor this is, but the journey from character to costly is exhaustive. Suits weren't always adherent to their source material, a major contention for die-hard comic book fans. For example, the costumes in the 2000 original X-Men had the cast of superheroes clad in head-to-toe leather in roles that necessitate flexibility. In attempts to make audiences more accepting of so-called silly superpowers, costumes took on a militaristic, gruff aesthetic that totally just screamed mature. Studios weren't catering to the fans, but the general public. And it's this desperation for mass appeal that has stunted superhero suit design. In the era of gritty realism, successful adaptations came with characters who were meant to seem grounded, like Captain America in his first MCU outing. One can remember the positive reception this iteration of Rogers got because the realistic adaptations felt contextualized within the setting, while still including that red and blue superhero flair. Similarly, Batman in Nolan's trilogy moves towards technologically advanced, but never strays too far from reality and still manages to maintain the iconic components of the suit. Meanwhile, superhero outfits that were comic accurate soon prevailed as the most popular approach in the public eye, but studios were still hesitant. Iron Man premiered with the comic accurate suit, but one contextualized as bulky and tangible, still within the militaristic aesthetic. However, as the MCU continued and heroes were introduced to mainstream movie-going audiences, suits became an even more contentious topic. Now, these live-action representations were so popular that they had to include some relation to their comic origins to please the fans and bank on the oh-so-precious resource of nostalgia. However, studios still feared the more general audience scoffing at a man in tights. From here, we enter the era of excess. More recent suit designs see the trends of adding random lines vaguely coded as technologically advanced, bits and pieces hanging off of every available square inch of a hero, and a general sense of chaos to more recognizable suit designs to try and make them more exciting for mass audiences. That, or the even less artistically driven motivation of more suits equating to more toys. Why else would Peter have an entire wardrobe in No Way Home? Worse yet, suits are hardly consistent amongst heroes or between films. While it may not matter to the audience that Ant-Man's suit went under its 4th redesign for his latest film, I certainly can't notice every single difference in superhero suits between films, but it doesn't matter to Scott Lang either. And that's when the problems with this modern approach emerge. Notice how part of my measurement of a suit's quality is how representative of that character the suit is. The militaristic Captain America works not just because the suit looked great, but because it naturally demonstrated aspects of the character. Of course I want my costumes to be visually appealing. Insomniac Spider-Man has taught me customization is half the fun of being a hero. However, Batman also has a symbol for a reason. Design choices aren't mistakes. A superhero suit, as all the best comic book films understand, are inherently charged with narrative meaning for their representational power. The recent Spider-Verse films prove just as much. Anyone can wear the mask, but that's only a significant statement when the mask means something. To me, Remy's suit is this notion distilled into an outfit. Where superhero suits in recent MCU and DCU outings read more as disingenuous distractions, there was once a time where superhero suits were representative of their character and held a place in the narrative. There was once a time where suits meant something. In the early days of superhero grit, audiences were often treated to the design process of these more tangible suits. Now barely even cloth, superhero suits hold less narrative weight than in the past. They are literally intangible and narratively invisibilized. In the original Iron Man, Tony Stark builds his first suit out of desperation for survival. With scrap metal and earwax, Pretty Boy Stark managed to tough his way out of foreign imprisonment because of his threats. In this way, the suit itself becomes representative of Stark's newfound will to live and the recognition of his privileged position as the world's most dangerous weapons dealer. When returning to America, Iron Man's half hour spent testing and perfecting his design for a new iconic red and yellow iteration is thus reflective of his character's development. Tony is learning to hone his corruption into a weapon for good. Tony's mastering development of the suit is quite literally a manifestation of his developing character. Stark has to learn to wield his previous weakness as a strength in the form of his suit. Similarly, Peter's transition from a homemade sweatsuit to Spider-Man feels triumphant for the narrative weight it's allowed. Only after Peter learns that with great power comes great responsibility does he design the suit. Only after Peter has learned a valuable lesson does the suit come to mind as a direct result of his positive development. The iconic Remy montage isn't just a stylish, delightfully hokey means of slipping past the explanation of how Peter can sew a suit that well, but a demonstration of growth. Batman Begins doesn't even have Bruce don the final iteration of the suit until, 40 minutes in? Wayne wasn't able to simply buy his way to Batman, but instead had to earn his position. He trained, failed, and adapted time and time again. In The Dark Knight, we quite literally see Bruce making adjustments to his suit after failed battles. These films build up to Bruce's wearing of the suit because it understands the significance and symbolism behind such an outfit. Batman, like Iron Man and Spider-Man, is a symbol with meaning. These characters represent grand ideas and statements on humanity, and in such, their suits become a part of their legendary iconic status, distillations of that character into a symbol. Unlike modern superhero films, where suits are either paraded for nostalgia bait or simply present for the sake of marketing and toy sales, the superhero suits of yesteryear were narratively charged devices used to communicate character development and a film's ultimate theme. The films themselves treated suits not as props or marketing material, but as a representation of a character becoming a hero. Sadly, I'm not hopeful for the future of suit designs. While recent outings have made it seem that comic accuracy is the new trend, that is only because it is what is currently the most profitable. I doubt that the same brains at Marvel that thought of this monstrosity are also providing fans with the greatest on-screen suit since Raimi because it's narratively meaningful. While that suit is a fantastic example of a recent superhero outfit being incorporated into the story, it's simultaneously one suit of 5 Peter takes on in this film alone. Narrative weight is continuing to be overshadowed by marketing potential, and the second nostalgia stops becoming profitable and runs out of fashion, so will Hugh Jackman in his bright yellow Wolverine outfit. It's difficult to say if studios were correct in assuming some suits seem too silly for the silver screen, but I don't doubt them making the same leaps in logic once profits start to fall and a new design trend is popularized for potential audience satisfaction. Grounded, over-designed, what's next? Hopefully, whatever it is sees the suit becoming more than just an outfit.